So one of the most common machines you're going to see on any job site is called the miter saw. Some people call it the chop saw. All right, they're used interchangeably. Miter means angle, so typically they're used for angled cuts, 45-degree corners, things like that. For now, we're just going to focus on doing a cross cut with the miter saw, where we're just cutting straight 90-degree cuts, just like you see it positioned here. All right, so we're just going to cut to a rough length. So if our final board in the squaring process needs to be 14 inches, we're just going to cut it to 15 inches. So we're going to add 1 extra inch to the final length. The parts of the machine are pretty basic. You're going to see a lot of these names over and over again as we go through the different machines in the Woods Lab. You're going to have an on-off switch. The miter saw switch is a little different because there's what's called a safety switch that you have to activate with your thumb. You basically slide it with your thumb, and then the actual trigger to turn on the machine is actually underneath where you can't really see it here. You'll see in the video here in a second how that actually works. We have what's called the handle, where we grab with our palm. We have a blade. In this case, it's a 12-inch circular saw blade. We have a guard. That's a clear plastic shield that protects us from that blade. We have a fence, which we push the board up against. And we have a table that we push the board down against. You'll also see some other stuff here in the front. That's all for the mitered cuts, so don't worry too much about that right now. So the first thing you see me doing here is to mark my board to the approximate length that I need. So like I said earlier, if my board needs to be 14 inches, I'm going to cut it here to 15. I'm going to mark it with a pencil. Here you can see me using a Sharpie. I'm just doing that for the sake of the video. You never want to use Sharpie or a pen because it soaks into the wood and it's hard to get out later. Alright, so I made my mark there. Alright, I slide that mark over to where I see the laser line on the miter saw. Okay, it's an approximate location. That laser's not exactly accurate, but it gives us a good idea of where that blade is going to come down and cut our board. You'll notice my left hand here is at least 4 inches away. That 4 inch is my general rule. Whenever I'm using a machine, I always make sure my hand's at least 4 inches away from where the blade's going to be cutting. Here you can see I grab the handle. My thumb is what's going to activate the switch. It's going to slide it over. And then the rest of my fingers are grabbing the actual trigger underneath. When you're ready to make your cut, it's basically 3 motions. The first thing you're going to do is bring the saw out towards you, bring it all the way down into the table, then take it all the way back. Okay, so you'll see here, I bring it out. I don't have it on yet. I just brought it right out to the front. That way it's going to be able to come straight down and back. I then turn on the power, come down, all the way back. Down, all the way back. I let the saw stop spinning, let it come back up. Alright, so let's just show you that clip one more time here. All the way down, all the way back. Let it stop spinning, let it come up. You'll see there's going to be a scrap piece that you just cut. You want to get in the habit of using your left hand to basically slide that board and knock away this scrap piece. Okay, it's kind of hard to show you in this video, but your left hand just kind of use that piece to knock away the scrap, because sometimes there's just a little scrap here. You don't want to get in the habit of reaching your hand in there because it's very easy to get hurt that way. So I just use that big board to knock away any scrap that's out here. I can then use my right hand to clear away the scrap over here. Okay, so to recap everything I showed you, I just went through in the video. One thing I didn't mention is that the board length, whenever you're cutting anything, has to be at least 1 foot long. So you can't cut anything 6 inches long on the miter saw. Has to be at least 1 foot. In our case, the board was basically 15 inches, so that's plenty of extra room, so that we have enough room to keep our hands 4 inches away from the blade. Okay, we add an extra inch to our length, mark it with a pencil, position the boards to the laser lines with your pencil mark. We hold the board with our left hand. We grab the handle with our right hand. We make sure the hands are at least 4 inches away from the cut line at all times, about the size of your fist. When making the cut, we bring the saw towards us. We lower it completely into the table. We then push it back all the way through the board. Make sure the saw has stopped spinning after you make the cut. We then let it raise back up to the top. We never reach our hand into the danger zone. That's the area right by the blade. We always use a long piece of wood, such as the scrap piece or the piece to your left with your left hand, to knock away any scraps to the right. Okay.